Minnesota Vikings. Still one loss, and we still don't know if they're good. It's going to be a thing you hear every piece of NFL content you are going to consume from probably now until like the end of the season. We're still trying to figure out whether the Vikings are good or not. I think we can say, because looking,
I think they do good things.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the right way to put it, because when we look at this schedule here, they are one of the late afternoon games. They're playing the Cowboys, which is probably one of the better games of the week, if not like the best game, just kind of given the current state of both teams. So we can dive like right into that one. Yeah, the Vikings are a team that does good things, and I kind of like, I wrote it in first and 10. They have enough of the top tier of the talent where, like, if that needs to take over a game or they need to rely on that, they can. Like, obviously there's Justin Jefferson on the offensive side of the ball, but like on the defensive side of the ball, like I don't think we've said the name Zadarius Smith much on this podcast, but like, you've been crazy good. When I wrote the midseason All-Pro team, I had him second team All-Pro, because it was like, there was just really no way to leave him off the way he's was leading in pressure rate. One of the highest sack totals, one of the highest hit totals, just the way he's getting to the quarterback right now. So they also have like that type of impact play. The secondary is getting a little better. We spent a lot of time in the beginning of the season talking about their secondary, how they were a team, trying to do a lot of the Fangio stuff. And because with Ed Donatel, they were so much of, a team based in that style, running more cover six than any team. And it just wasn't always clicking, but now it is a little bit. Like, Patrick Peterson's playing pretty well. Obviously he had the interception, but just on a down to down basis, he's playing well. They have the safeties that are now playing well. Obviously, like, it was a little rough in the beginning of the season, had Lewis trying to get Lewis Cine in there, and then he has that injury. Harrison Smith's playing really well. It's just like, there's a lot of pieces on the team that are just playing at least good enough. And like right now, that's in the NFL, that's kind of what you need to be an actual good team. It's just enough pieces playing good enough, because there are a bunch of teams that don't even have that at this point.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Vikings, everyone looks on the outside. You want to have obviously the old Viking stigma. How will they lose this game? So they're winning the non-Vikings ways this year. But they do, like I said, I think the best way to frame it is that they're doing good things. And you look at the offensive side of the ball, they're more aggressive throwing on first down, right? Like, they're not just using the passing game when they have to. It's using the passing game to set up other things. They're running obviously out of 11 personnel, which we knew that they were going to do coming in. They make that trade for a couple weeks ago. We talked about the TJ Hockenson trade. Did it really change the dynamic for TJ Hockenson at all? Not really, but what it did was it allowed Justin Jefferson now to free up and run routes downfield, which we weren't getting. Like, remember, for 8 weeks, the Vikings were literally just ahead of the Giants, like deep ball rate. So now we've seen the past 2 weeks, Justin Jefferson's crushing on the intermediate level and the deep level. And, his entire career, like, he's been like an intermediate level assassin, like just absolutely crushed in the intermediate levels. So they are doing the right things. Like you said, when you have and then you just hope the talent takes over, right? when all the situations come about. They do need Kirk Cousins to play better, though. It is like, I like the way you framed it a couple weeks ago. I keep framing it. It is wild that they have like their best record while he's playing his worst football of his career. Like, this is the worst he's probably played of his career, like the entirety of the season so far. There's time to turn it around. But all those years he was playing really good football, and he was kind of wearing the blame of them being mediocre. But
Right.
yeah, I think when you look at it from the top, though, they are doing good things. And I think that is a better signal than us just saying, should they have lost some of these games?
Yeah, and for the Kirk Cousins thing, I had a big table a couple weeks ago in first and 10, just looking at it. I think it might have been like through week 6 or 7, just like his EPA per play, and it was easily the lowest like he had ever been through that point in his career. And I'm going to assume, I don't have the full chart, but he's still at negative 0.2 EPA per play. He's 23rd right now. He's behind Matt Ryan in EPA per play among quarterbacks this year, which is just insane. So it's just some of those things. It's just, he's kind of the poster child of like the point and throw quarterback. If you present something good to him, he's probably going to be able to hit it. If not, then that's where you get into trouble. And the Vikings have kind of been back and forth with that. Like you said, there weren't explosive plays. There was no way they were manufacturing those on their own. You had either, Justin Jefferson was taking those short crossers and turning them into huge gains, or it just wasn't happening. So when you look at what they are doing now, and like, yeah, man, we were all over this TJ Hawkinson thing, and like it's completely come up to like what we said it was. Looking at Justin Jefferson right now with TJ Hawkinson on the field, 31% target share, a 13.04 average depth of target, getting 45.9% of the team's air yards. He has turned into a downfield threat because TJ Hawkinson is now a legitimate piece that can run those short and intermediate routes. And Justin Jefferson no longer has to do that, right? It's when you have like this super talented guy and you kind of need someone to run that short to intermediate area of the field, because like that's kind of where the offense is going to win. And you need that in case of emergency. And Justin Jefferson was that guy early in the year. And now he doesn't have to do it. We saw immediately how that could have an impact the past 2 games. And then obviously the Bills game when you're throwing to him downfield, like those just weren't pieces of the offense earlier in the season. And now everything opens up. So you have Hawkinson underneath. Now, Hawkinson's just kind of been doing Hawkinson things, right? Hasn't been incredible. But like you said, he's putting that piece in that offense. I think it opens up Thielen a little more. Like it's just that little piece that you were able to put in. It just opened up everybody else because now they don't have to do that job. They didn't have anyone to do that job before, and they had better players playing a worse role. And that's just not the case now. So I am excited to see how that continues to turn. And then I think you look at when they're going to be playing Dallas this weekend, and Dallas is an interesting team because obviously like they have that pass rush and it's kind of been working, but I think we've kind of seen you can like run to the outside against them. I'm not sure how much Minnesota is going to be relying on that, but I think
and that
also
goes back to week 1. Like,
yeah,
remember the Buccaneers ran all over the Cowboys to open the year, and then the Buccaneers run game was just trash like for like the next 7 weeks, but all they did was run left to the outside that entire game. They're back, and I know that feels like another year right now, but they literally just ran outside left entire game. Like that's all they did, and then that's kind of come back the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it really has. And I think you kind of look at the structure of what the Vikings are doing there, the way they obviously play 11 personnel so much. They're running into a light box 37.6% of the time. That's the 8th highest rate in the league. So they are, doing some good things there. So obviously, like maybe you'll be able to structure some of that run game just like a little bit. But I also think you can take advantage of the secondary a little bit if you're trying to, get the ball out quickly. And I think we've kind of seen, for as much as the Cowboys were doing well on defense, it was a lot of individual players like really doing some stuff well, and they were throwing some like exotic things on like third downs and stuff, but it's still like it's a Dan Quinn like single high defense, right? So you can still kind of take advantage of that if you have like the talent. And we'll probably see Justin Jefferson on Trayvon Diggs, and Trayvon Diggs like hasn't been beaten as often as he was, and obviously doesn't have the high end of the interceptions either. I think overall consistency has been better than last year, but like you can still get him a little bit. So I think they still have enough pieces on the offensive side of the ball where it's going to be a matchup problem, I think, for defenses. And I think Dallas still kind of ends up being in that category where they don't necessarily have all the pieces, especially if you can kind of get the ball out quickly. I think we saw that last week with the Packers. Like they tried not to throw the ball at all. They were just going to run on the Cowboys. We're only going to throw a couple of times. We'll hit off play action. And I think the Vikings can do exactly that when they're matching up against Dallas.
Yeah, it's all going to be, about that pass rush, and that's been like Kirk Cousins' thing this year, right? Like you said, if you get Cousins off script, it's been a disaster. His completion rate drops 31% under pressure. That's the 7th largest drop in the league. So if Dallas, obviously one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, if they're able to get home, that's basically going to be the story of the game. That was a story when these two teams, it was a different system last year, but these teams played last year. It was a Cooper Rush start. And Cousins, it was also a primetime start too. If you guys want to throw even more, narrative on that, but like Cousins was terrible in that game, and they pressured him on 41% of his dropbacks in that game, and he threw for 21 yards under pressure in that game. So that's kind of going to be the MO here, is can Kirk Cousins, deal with the pressure, and can Dallas get home? Because that's going to be the story. Because Justin Jefferson only had 21 yards in that game last year, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I guarantee you, he has more than 21 on Sunday.
Yeah, I think we can hit. That's not going to be an official line, but I think we can hit that over.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to bet. You're not gonna be able to bet over 21. The alt line is not gonna be able to be teased that low, but
what's interesting though now is the Dallas offense and what exactly that looks like, because I think
especially with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, and if he's coming back, and if they're just, it's hard to imagine they just go back to what, like, you can't. I don't think this doesn't have to be like the Tony Pollard show, but you can't go back to trying to just run Zeke up the middle.
It's got to be like the Packers, right?
15 times a game. Sure, but
Aaron, he's like Tony Pollard's got to be Aaron Jones, like less receiving work, and then Zeke is AJ Dillon.
Yeah, I think in the split in that way, because like we've talked about the Packers before, the problem with that is when, Aaron Jones is your best offensive player and you're trying to you're trying to fit the offense around him, but then you're trying to do some of that pony stuff. So Aaron Jones also becomes like the number one wide receiver, and then you're getting like worse at wide receiver and also worse at running back. And that's where I think you get yourself into the problems that like the Packers have so far, trying to fit those two guys on the field. Dallas obviously isn't that, because they have CeeDee Lamb, they have a Gallup. They're going to be able to figure out a passing offense and don't have to rely on the running back to do that. But yeah, in the way that it's it's set up through the rotation, I think it should be more Pollard, man. Let Zeke be the short yardage back. Let him do that kind of stuff that he's good at. It just, like, he doesn't need to be running on first down. I don't think you need to be doing that like 10, 15 times a game. There's absolutely no reason for that. But I think we kind of we wanted the offense to be a little more creative, I think, and bring more of like the Cooper Rush. We have to design some stuff for the offense to make it work and like have that translate over to Dak. And like it has been there a little bit, but like not quite as much as you still would have hoped. It's still like, hey, Dak, you're really good. Like, go make this play. And that put them in like some kind of tough places. Like they're moving CeeDee Lamb around a little bit, but like it's still a place where, like they're relying too much on like everyone to be perfect. And I think like that's kind of where they're finding some of the struggles a little bit. So I'd just like to see them like just open some things up a little more, get a little more creative. Obviously with the Pollard stuff, it's worked the past couple weeks, but then you also like see yourself, you're relying on that a little bit, and then you put yourselves into a hole where then you have to get yourself back into the game, which we saw last week with the Packers. So I'm really like just not sure where I am feeling like with this Cowboys offense right now. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm not as down on it. I mean, you look at like last week. I mean, it was like an all-time run bad spot, right? Like you're up 14 going in the fourth quarter. A couple of mistakes were made in that game by Dak Prescott. Maybe they could have ran the ball a little bit more towards the end of the game and had more of a run split. But like, you just had like an all-time bad beat, right? Like, I'm not like, when those things happen, it's not like a sky is falling moment. Like, I'm not going to, turn on my TV and listen to hear like, this is why Dak Prescott's so overrated, right? Like you just got to, you had a bad beat, right? Same thing happened to the Bills. It was just an all-time bad beat. Things happen like that. You made some mistakes. You have some plays in the field. But since Dak has come back, I mean, they've been scoring a lot of points. So, yeah. I mean, I still feel pretty positive overall about like the state of the offense. Yeah, they could definitely do some more things here, creativity to get some of these other guys going too, right? Because like right now the offense has been kind of big plays through Tony Pollard the past 2 weeks and how just freeing up CeeDee Lamb. And Dalton Schultz has been a little bit of a foxhole guy. We haven't been able to get anything out of Michael Gallup, the entire season. And since Gallup has come back, Noah Brown like stopped contributing as well. He was like an early season contributor. Like they got more out of Noah Brown early in the season than they're getting out of any of the ancillary guys now.
Yeah.
So maybe they could get some of those guys going. But I still feel pretty good about the level their offense has been playing at since come back. He's cut down some of the mistakes, and they walk away with that game if they don't have the red zone turnover. Just the mistakes that were made. So. Yeah, they're favored. It's pretty interesting. So you took an all-time bad beat for the Cowboys last week and an all-time run hot moment for the Vikings to kind of get here. And, Vegas isn't playing that game, right? Because you look at it on the surface, you're like, hey, I just watched the Vikings beat the Bills. I just watched the Cowboys lose to the Packers. One team's 8-1. Like that team should be favored. And that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's one of those things that will puzzle, some people. When you're looking at it, but I think when look right now, Dallas is 4th in overall DVOA. You go down to Minnesota, who is 17th. So obviously, with just pure quality of team, the record is not completely it's showing what that is. So obviously, there is a difference. Yeah, Dallas is still playing good. I just want to see like a little more. And
they left meat on the bone.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my hang up with them as we go through it.